Lovely. This is not bad coffee at all. You've done very well, considering...
I emptied a sachet of the finest.
Oh, it's nice, but are you having... Is that black?
Yes.
Right, sugar?
No.
No? Hardcore.
Yes.
Very much,
very
See,
hardcore.
and now I'm approaching that point, but not quite yet. I still have just a tiny bit of milk. I'm just out. I've got to break through. I think I will.
It's bad for the teeth. It's best to stay white. That's anyway.
There we go. Michael Fabbri, thank you for agreeing to do a coffee with. We have coffee.
Thank you for having me. I didn't know I was doing it until half an hour ago.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
No, absolutely. Well, you were saying that this is the first, one of the first interviews that you've done. You've done.
Yeah, I don't
a few.
forget. No one ever wants to interview. I did. There's something online where I was in Asia for some reason, and they were doing a kind of Letterman-style TV show out there, and it's all got good production values, but it's kind of incongruous. This sort of circuit act appearing like he's some famous guy. They did have famous. They had some some real famous guy on the day before, and then they're just scrabbling around for guests in the middle of Singapore when nobody goes. And you can see it online. And I have to do a bit of stand-up to canned laughter at the start. It's quite excruciating. I'm so glad it's out there for everyone. So the interview bit was actually quite good fun. But
Wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was about 3 years ago.
3 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, we're privileged to have you. See, in my head...
I don't do many interviews. Let's say it's a choice. Let's make it my choice. Yeah. And I insist on having Adam asleep on a bed near me for every... This is why, because Adam Bloom has to be lying on a bed. There.
Asleep
Is it his rider?
Yeah, it's in my rider.
A sleeping Adam Bloom.
Yes, is it very... Yeah, I insist upon it. Yeah. We're in Adam Bloom's hotel room. That should be probably
Drinking my coffee that I didn't have during my
At this point,
CGI that coffee into my
yeah, we'll superimpose it. But no, see, in my head, because I've seen you perform, or I've seen you on the bill at the stands a couple of times, and I just assumed that you were quite out there. But
out there as in what?
Well, in that you were quite well known.
I think what I'm is established amongst bookers and comedians know I am.
Yeah.
But no, I don't have an audience. If I go to Edinburgh and do a show, you're starting from the
stragglers.
People who couldn't get in somewhere else. People I specialise in those people. Yeah, I aim my shows for the disappointed.
Well, it's nice to have that target in mind.
Yeah,
so you can shape your. But often I find at Edinburgh there's people who are actually performing to quite a crowd on the back of that, and will actually have a nice time. If people are up for it, and it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's fine. I mean. I've been to Edinburgh for a couple of years. I mean, I don't have a sort of public profile at all, really. I've not done any telly. Don't do interviews.
Is it a conscious decision? You stay underground.
Yeah,
Don't want people to know about you.
Yeah, conscious abandonment. It's fine. I mean, it's not. I don't have any complaints as such. Really. I don't get bitter. I should be more known or anything. But don't know where we.
Yeah, no, but I mean, not going for the past 2 years. I mean, do you feel? Because with Edinburgh, it's such a thing that you're grafting and then
they talk about a momentum. I think that I never really developed. I did it 3 years in a row and then 2 years worth of package shows. And what I really like doing Edinburgh for is it refreshes. I think it makes you a better act. You've got to do an hour. You've got to write an hour. You come away with a certain amount of material that you didn't have before you went. So it makes you a better act. So I'd quite like to go back possibly not this year, but certainly the following year, just to go through that again. And if something else came of it, it would be a bonus. But that's the best thing I've got out of Edinburgh. And the 3 shows I've done, I've been happy with 2 of them. And the last one I did I wasn't happy with, which is why I've had a couple of years off, really, to sort of recharge my batteries a bit. Because I think I kept agreeing to go with only 3 months left, and I would write a show in 3 months. And and the first time I got away with it, I did that was away, but the second time, it wasn't a disaster. I mean, people weren't, demanding their money back, but I wasn't happy with it, so I've taken a couple of years off. So I could do a show again, next week if I had to. I've built up enough. It would be ropey because it's not rehearsed, but I've built up enough material now that I wouldn't struggle to put a show together. That's the main thing. It was just a decision not to go through lack of things to say. And it's quite nice when you're off during that August period, because you get to do. I think I went to India last year.
Is it because all the comics are in
Edinburgh? Well, so many of the comics are in Edinburgh that a lot of clubs close down, of course, but many don't. So I tend to find those weekends very satisfying. And I do go up to Edinburgh and watch shows. I still really enjoy it up there, enjoy watching shows. In fact, I enjoy it more, Edinburgh, when I'm not doing a show. Okay. If the first time I went up there, the first year I was off, I realised, this is why people come to Edinburgh. It's actually really good fun. If you're not doing a show. I mean, I had fun when I was doing a show, but it's much more enjoyable. Yeah,
just soaking in all the stuff.
Yeah, seeing shows and no stress, doing
it's
your own.
Expensive, mind. It's getting more and more. I don't know. I worry that people are going to be put off. But
I spent. Yeah, I think I went up there for 3 days, and I think I spent about £500 or something.
And if you do Edinburgh properly, that's what you end up doing.
Because I paid to see a lot of the shows. You can text people, say, can I come into your show? But they're getting ready to go to the show, and I might not even know them that well. Like, if it's acts I knew really well, then I could go in with a bit. If I didn't know them that well, so I'd pay and go and see them. And there were plays and things, and I don't know the actors. This is terrible. I don't know these actors. So the accommodation was pretty expensive. This year I went up and stayed with a friend. I didn't. So
that's the way to do it.
I £150 this year. I think all in. So that was fine.
Well, see, we went up for 5 days and we saw one show because we were doing interviews all day. But very cheap because we got into that one free. So that is the way to do it. If you're doing a show or you're doing something. Then maybe that's the way.
Well, I stayed with a friend who's more sociable than I am and could get me into more shows because I'm not. I should be more of a networker.
But I mean, doing the Edinburgh show and putting the hours together is very different from what you're doing tonight at the Glee Club. I mean, do you worry that you get too involved with the club scene and that you're not going to be able to do kind of the shows anymore?
No, I think I could put another hour show together. It's certainly true that I just generally do pretty similar things in my club sets, just the same.
But is that standard? I mean, do people shake it up a bit more, or does everyone have their classic club?
I do. I'm always trying to put new things in, but I won't take out something unless I know that it's replacing the thing I'm replacing it with. I don't want to. I don't want to get rid of a bit of material if the bit I'm putting in its place isn't good enough, isn't as good as that bit. Sometimes you have to do that a bit, or if you've been doing something way too long, and it's time to give it a rest. Otherwise, you will. I think he's snoring now.
I think he is asleep.
Yeah. No, he's opened his eyes again, so this is fine. And I think he's going to put me off.
One way of looking at that is how rude to fall asleep during an interview. Another way of looking at it is you're in my room and I instigated the interview, suggested it and arranged it.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite charitable in one sense. But I'm sorry, was I snoring then?
You were.
If I'd been given a coffee, maybe I'd be awake now.
Yeah. To be honest, I was boring myself a bit. So I was just talking a bit. I thought this is boring what I'm saying. So I'm quite glad you snored because
I supported Norman Lovett, one of my favourite comedians, in theatre in Swindon. and someone fell asleep in the audience, and I wasn't sitting there, so I heard them first.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's going to know sooner or later, and then gradually they
Yeah.
started to realise, and last of all to realise it was Norman on the stage, and he just went, so I was walking down the street, and I said, is someone snoring? And the bloke broke up, and he came out with this lovely excuse.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep last night through excitement of coming to your show, which you know, it made up an excuse. But Norman destroyed this poor bloke. Really had a go in. But wasn't even just being funny, just had a go in.
Well, no, I think that's the thing. Like I saw, who was it? George Carlin, and when he was heckled, he didn't play. He just shot them down, and he just shut them up.
Right.
I suppose that's a way of doing it.
Did you say you saw him live? Did you see
No.
him? Oh, right.
I
Just
mean,
on
I saw
the,
him.
yeah.
Do you mean he was no longer a comedian? He became a man having a go at someone.
Well, in a way, I mean, he had his stuff, didn't he?
How did he die? That was quite
2 years ago, maybe.
Oh, it's not that long ago. It's like feasible that you could have seen.
Oh, what's your point? What's your point?
Well, no, the point is that are you going to make it funny? Are you going to make it into a thing? Or are you just going to, right, you're going to shut up, I'm going to do my stuff.
Yeah.
I can shut you up because I'm on stage, I've got a microphone.
But was it entertaining?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, really.
Someone falling asleep, though, is sort of says it all, doesn't it? If you're...
I can understand.
You can't, it's not technically a heckle. A snore is not a heckle. It's an involuntary noise you make when you've lost consciousness.
That's true, but then I can understand someone going, being quite hurt by the fact that they're snoring. You know, no matter what.
It's not malicious, though.
It is quite common in clubs to have audience members fall asleep.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly in the ones which are more tailored towards large groups. They'll fall asleep. Somebody in the group.
Drunk.
Somebody
Closing the late show, London store.
Oh yeah.
When it was midnight. It's 11 o'clock start now. When it's midnight start, you'd be closing, and at 2:30 there would be someone in the front row. I say front row because you shouldn't see them. There'll probably be someone else 4 rows back. You don't notice it, and it's very off-putting to realise that someone's asleep. Spent years crafting these words, and someone's asleep.
But I mean, it's location specific? So it will happen somewhere like...
Well, the Comedy Store's the latest gig there is, that's all. Midnight start, 2:30 finish. So that time people can't stay awake that long. They've been drinking since 7.
Although, I have to admit, I fell asleep in the late show at Edinburgh one time.
Yeah, I've fallen asleep in Edinburgh, because Edinburgh's a long day, you want to see as much as you can. And I overdid it at one of the shows. And I mean, it was a good show, it was Hannibal Buress, but I was completely out of energy at that point. And the room was too hot, and I just hope, I mean, there was no moustache drawn on me, but I dropped off. He's got this quite soft voice, and I was so tired. I've been there 3 days at that point, and I mean, it was. I'm sure it was funny, but it was just. I'd seen too much. I'd overdone it. I'd been up since 9, and I'd had a glass of wine in every show. So
it just happens.
Yeah.
Are we still going?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, this is very informal. I'd say this interview's not going well if you've had to go. Is it still, we going to carry in?
No, I was just worried.
I'm new at these.
I was just worried about my life.
Yeah.
I was just worried about all the cameras being moved back and the...
I think he's trying to make me not look like a midget. That's because we were talking, because I'm in a lower chair, that we've got a Lord of the Rings thing going on. Anyway. Sorry, yes, you were saying, I can't remember.
We were saying about Edinburgh, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. And falling asleep in shows.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's it really. I mean, it happens, and I've never been cross with an audience member for falling asleep. They're not being abusive, they're being tired.
So I got angry when they wake up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can understand, and you've got different rules in place. And you've,
They want to get the callbacks.
I've just lost my trail of thought.
Yeah. I think it's probably just another question you want to ask.
Another question. Well, what was interesting that you mentioned is that you've supported for Mickey Flanagan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and Lucy Porter.
And Lucy Porter as well. Now that's a different ball game altogether, really, isn't it? Because they're not coming to see you; they're coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I did a theatre show that big, with my name on it, then there would be 4 people. He was still with someone else. So I don't. It's strange. I think with both of those shows, I got the feeling that I was seen more as an unexpected bonus, not somebody who was taking away from what they come to see in general. I felt that certainly all Lucy's audiences and Mickey's made me feel very welcome. There weren't any shows that I felt were. Well, a couple of the shows were difficult, only in the sense that they started a bit too early. It started about 7:30, and people were still coming in. But that's what the support act's kind of there for, to deal with that, so that the show works better. You're partly there as a buffer for that sort of thing, so you can't sort of complain. I did one and it was a huge room. It was the Bournemouth. It's an arena effectively. It's a I think it's 3,000 seats, but it's just much more vast than the theatres of similar capacity. And I was just talking into noise. It people moving and this is my seat, and people were still trying to enjoy it and laugh, but at the same time, it reminded me a bit of the Antiques Roadshow. You know, when they're talking, but everyone around is still sort of bustling. But you know, that one was difficult. But on the whole, most people had got there on time, and they didn't know there was going to be a support act. So the first thing you'd walk on to, "Ladies, welcome," and it was it's not someone else. So there's a sort of sense of a readjustment going on in the audience's mind.
Yeah, well, Craig Campbell said that it's almost like it's more comedy. You know, they weren't expecting him, but there's more. Let's give this guy a go. Yeah, you know, as opposed to who the hell is this?
Yeah, I was liking myself because I think the Coalition had just started then, and I was liking myself to Nick Clegg. I hadn't actually any right to be on the stage, but here I was in a sort of deputy position that I didn't earn. We'll make the best of it. Yeah, that's how I'd open, and then generally it would. I mean, some of them because the strange thing with those shows is that it was the tour had initially started in sort of art centres, but I guess. Mickey Flanagan and his management, they didn't quite know how popular he'd become, and those art centre shows sold out immediately. So, we must, so we can get a lot more. And then he put in this huge theatre tour off the back of not that much TV really. Now he's done loads, and now he's filling arenas and things. But at that time, if you compare the amount of TV coverage he'd had and the amount of audience he was trying, as far as I can tell, everyone was watching him and going, I want to see him live. Yeah. Or lots of people were. So he was getting incredible numbers.
It is difficult to know kind of what people. I mean, he's very good, but I mean, what makes. Just sometimes someone will come out and will capture everyone's imagination.
I think there are people who had as much TV coverage as he did and couldn't attract anything like the same number of people. And I do find that interesting. I think it's, basically he's funnier than them. That's what it is. I don't know, sorry, whoever these people are, but I've not mentioned it. But it was particularly good. And it attracted I thought, a really nice audience. And I loved doing it. It was brilliant. And
a different experience. I mean, you wouldn't get that any other way, really. I mean, not to say that you won't be massively successful and filling arenas at one point.
Well, I don't think that. I think that it's a matter of what. I think individual characters do have a sort of a maximum, a kind of capacity to which. I think even if I was better known, I don't know if I'd have as larger audience as he'd have. I don't consider myself as good as he is. I mean, that's quite a big factor. But it's a question of people identifying with your personality, I think. And I think a lot of people identify with him. He does this sort of the Cockney thing, but I always think that his. I grew up in quite a sort of wealthy town, really. We weren't particularly rich, but the people around us were. But the characters he portrays, are very familiar to me. And this is in Farnham in Surrey. So I think he really... it's something that lots of people identify with. That's why it's a popular thing. It's funny. It's funny.
I think what you were saying, that he was kind of built for having a big audience. There's certain characters that they're kind of destined for the mainstream, I suppose, like Michael McIntyre.
Yeah.
He's always going to appeal to everyone because that's the nature of his comedy. But some people, they don't want that, and they have a limited... Or not that they don't want it, or that they just won't get it because they're not that sort of person.
They won't. I mean, you could be really good, but it's still going to be a limited number of people who'll want to see it. But you're lucky if you've got an audience that you can tour to, even if it's in small venues, and they'll come and you can make a good living. I'm not bloody feel sorry for you, but you're not filling the O2. I mean, and it's very possible you might be doing something really, interesting, and
you're doing what you want to do. Absolutely,
yeah, I suppose.
And that's not to say people like Michael McIntyre aren't, but maybe there's a
I think he's doing what he always did. It's just that people didn't know he did it. I did. It's an interesting thing. 2006, my first ever Edinburgh. We did something called the Comedy Reserve in the Pleasance, which you may well have heard of. It's a brilliant thing they do because Edinburgh's so expensive, and they put you don't pay for anything. They I don't know if this is still the case, but we were put in our own accommodation, and we had our own, didn't have to pay for the room because Edinburgh is extremely expensive, even for doing package shows a lot of the time. And they pay for everything. It's a Charlie Harthill Trust, I think they call it. There's some sort of charity they put together after this guy. I think his name's Charlie Harthill. I got this right because he died, and there's a charity after him. Anyway, cut long story short, that 70-seater in 2006. The show after us was Michael McIntyre, and 70 seats.
Yeah,
and within 2 years, he was filling up Wembley Arena. And I think it's the same thing that Mickey had, that people saw him do not very much, just 10 minutes on Royal Variety, and then loads of people loved it. It's not a lot of people's cup of tea, but it's people got a free sample. Yeah, I want to buy more of that, I suppose.
It is also interesting, though, that I first saw him at the Royal Variety, but he was on every panel show. Yeah. He was on, Live at the Apollo. And then I think there was one of the Live at the Apollos that really propelled him. Yeah, but there was still work
you might know
to
better
do.
than I do. All I remember is he was in that room after us, and the next thing he's in the arenas. I knew he did the Royal Variety performance and stuff like that. I have to say though, I did see him just after the Royal Variety performance because I this sort of still doing open spots at this point, and I saw him in the Comedy Store. I was doing open spot at the Comedy Store, and then you could tell he's probably going to... I'd never seen anybody do that well, actually. Just in terms of just making people laugh. It was pretty big. But yeah. I don't know why I brought the subject up.
Michael McIntyre. Thank you very much,
thank you.
Michael.
Cheers.
It's been, and thank you.
Cheers.
I'll reach over.
Yeah.
Look at that. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's the way you should finish an interview, I feel.
I'm so sorry about falling asleep.